Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for tonight's very exciting lecture. And to be honest, this is the first time we're doing this outdoors, so if the weather gets the better of you and you need to go, it's live on Instagram, so AIA_Middle East, and you can continue following from the convenience of the AC inside. Just kidding, stay here with us. Having said that, I'd quickly like to talk very briefly about tonight's lecture. Tonight's lecture will be presented by Mr. Ahmed Bucheery, who is a very well-known architect in Bahrain. But not only architecture, we'll be seeing restoration, we'll be seeing urban planning, but I'll leave that for Dr. Suhail later to give you better insight on that. So before I go too much into the lecture, I'd quickly like to give you guys a quick teaser of our upcoming AIA Middle East year-end conference. The year-end conference will be in Sharjah this year. We have a theme around the future. We're trying to speculate on the future of architecture, speculate on the future of design. And in fact, even for those who have architecture firms here, you can submit your work to potentially win awards across several sectors as part of the awards program. And students are also welcome to submit their presentation, their work as part of the awards ceremony. And those who will be joining us for this year, we have a range of architects, including Patrick Schumacher of the late Zahedi Architects Office. For those of you who may not know, Patrick Schumacher was essentially the second person in the office after Zahedi herself. Will be joining us as part of the speaking panel. We have Hani Rashid of Asymptote. If you guys have seen the Abu Dhabi Yas Marina Hotel and F1 circuit, so he designed that along with his partner, Lizanne Couture, right at the bottom right there. And Ali Rahim, a professor of architecture at the University of Pennsylvania, does a lot of experimental work. So we have a very good range of speakers that will be at the year-end conference. So please sign up. The link is on our Instagram page, or if you want to have any more information, you can ask me later. It's on our website. It's all online, thankfully. And it will be held in Sharjah, as I mentioned earlier. It's a 2-day event, December 8th and 9th. So we'd love to have any and all of you join us for this. And it's open to everyone. You don't have to be an AIA member. However, if you are an AIA member, you get a special discount, as you could imagine. So, going back to tonight's lecture, Simply Architecture, Thoughts and Reflections by Mr. Ahmed Bucheery. But to introduce Mr. Ahmed Bucheery, I'd like to invite Dr. Suhail al-Masri, who's been working with Mr. Ahmed for a very, very long time. But instead of me talking about it, I'll let him do the introduction. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good evening. It gave me a great honor to introduce Ahmed Bucheery tonight. I have known Ahmed since 1995, when we were both of us at University of Bahrain. In 1997, Ahmed left university to pursue his professional career, transforming GHE, Gulf House Engineering, from a small office into a leading consultancy firm. It is local consultant, however, we are proud to say that it is international in terms of portfolio scale standard. I have known Ahmed for more than 20 years, and to compress introduction for Ahmed in 5 minutes, you can see what is the difficult task in front of me. However, I will try to do the best, because there is so much rich experience and there is so much to learn and to talk about. Knowing Ahmed for the last more than 20 years and working with him since 2006, this is where I joined Gulf House Engineering. I have observed his career changes, development, and successes. One thing which remains constant, it is his passionate approach to architecture and his strong belief that architecture should grow naturally, organically out of the site, without camouflage, without a slogan, without a cliche. It is an architecture that belongs to the place and inspired by the cultural heritage. Something which has been lost with modernization and urbanization, unfortunately. And to hold to this principle, it is a difficult task for an architect nowadays. Seeing his development, it was very interesting. And being a part of it, it is an honor for me to be part of it as well. He strongly believes that architecture, it should be out of the place. It is not only just from the tangible part, but also from the intangible part. The most important is the identity, and that architecture should represent the culture. And this is what we call architecture for the senses. His architecture show interesting display of between solid and void, light and shade, material and textures. And most importantly, it is an interplay between people and the places. Could be observed in all Ahmed project, from the 85 square meter old house in Muharraq to the prestigious presidential palace of a 380,000 square meter in Abu Dhabi. Ahmed dialogued to the tradition in a very creative way, and this is in a very sensitive way. To the extent I start believe that Ahmed talked to building and building talked to him. Usually at the beginning of every project where we meet, white paper like this, start to be filled with line, sketches, scribbles, and even notes. Sketches are formed and ideas are conceived. His computer, his freehand sketches, is very fast and never out of memory. This is a skill, unfortunately, many architects nowadays lost because of over-dependency on computer. Throughout his career, for the last more than 25 years, Ahmed has achieved so many firsts with S, including Amouage Island is the first planned city, real estate city. It was done in the 90s, and we could observe what's happening during the boom. Gossi, El Ali Center, Dananov Hotel, as well as one more, I do believe, as Zamel Tower. This is the first serious attempt in Bahrain to a certain extent. Of course, there was a small attempt before, but this is the first serious attempt where we could Ahmed utilized the traditional architecture in modern building, and he demonstrates that the lack is not in the tradition, it is in the skill of the architect himself. Partnering with Sheikh Ibrahim Center for Culture and Research. Ahmed also rescued so many old buildings. Zayed Extension, Burar, Ben Faris, Nuzul, Ben Matar, and so many things. The importance of those projects that it was the first as well which initiate a movement of heritage conservation in Bahrain to be followed. He demonstrates that those old buildings are not dead assets. They could be transferred into cultural oases. The approach, it is surgery, not amputation. It is a creativity, not copying. Having said all this about the first of what Ahmed achieved and setting the stage for the rest to follow and to adopt, I do believe personally that one of his major achievements that he confirmed a movement and the transformation of architecture in Bahrain. When I arrived in Bahrain, and many here were with me in university, proudly to say my student and my colleague, the image of a tradition, it was a pediment classical pediment, and 2 columns. And this has changed over the year. And to do this, it needed quite a lot of someone holding to his principle and to his approach to architecture. Simply architecture, yes. It is simple word to say, difficult to achieve. It is an architecture that link, and this is where Ahmed's contribution, that link between the past and the present. And in this way, I do believe that he's writing the tradition of the future. And he has written a major chapter of the development of architecture in Bahrain. Without further ado, I do hope that I give the man his right and what he has done in those few minutes. Of course, Ahmed is a book which I hope one day yet to be written. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ahmed to the stage to tell us directly about his project and his architectures.
الله يخليك يا دكتور. Okay. All right. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everybody. Honor and having a pleasure to meet with everybody down here and to share with you and maybe to chat on a few things. I always say that architects and designers, they have that part that is not always being completed, that aiming for future to be done on the next project. So always when we sit with Dr. Sohail, and thank you Dr. Sohail for the introduction, I'm so honored. I mean, there are so many things to talk about, and I think we don't have much since we are our hands, as we say, on the actual work. Then I find ourselves sometimes lacking of presenting and preparing good information. However, inshallah, on a future, I'm sure that we can present something really good. Thank you for Ali and for AIA for the arrangement, and I'm honored to be a speaker on this. Okay, before talking about what we done, I mean it, because it's me and a lot of good architects that have been working with me all of those years. I was doing a few presentations since the 90s, and I was talking about architecture during years, transitions and periods, and I was analyzing. Most of us, we know that a good project starts with a good analysis. When I was a student on the university, I always says, you first thing do, before even think of doing any drawing, sit, analyze, think of it, talk about it, get information, where, for whom, why, all of those questions that for sure gonna give you a list of a guideline for your design. One of the things that have affected me is what I'm going to present at the beginning, that I always say is that all of us, we have something on the back, history maybe something you believe on, that you bring it back to your design work. And I will discuss that, and I will be talking about first our small island, Bahrain. Bahrain, a small island, big changes, not here in Bahrain, all around the world. We saw changes. Sometimes, I get scared when I see the amount of change that happened so fast. Maybe it's not noticeable by ourselves living on the place, but I will tell you as this, if you travel to any destination before 5 years, go back now. You're going to find completely something different. And this is what happened on this place. Between the period, whereas I will say, there was a uniform, there is no architects, there are people, there are believed materials, there are environment, and people are doing their own architectural with maybe simple astad, as we call, or the architect, to a very, sophisticated buildings, development huge, and of course monumental buildings. And there are so many things to do with conservation and others. Bahrain. I will show later on, something. This red line, or the red color down on that small island, which equivalent almost, if you spread it from 3D into 2D, to half of the land, or maybe 70%. Believe it or not, that was years back, a small dot down here and small dot down here. Not hundreds of years, 50 years back, 60 years back. The area of the urban area on our island have increased not less than 20 times as a build-up area. I'm talking about build-up area, of course, vertically or horizontally. And lines of sky that have changed the whole thing, driven by things from outside, globalization, new material, new technologies, and between inside, the culture have evolved and have changed. My beautiful island, Harrag. This is Harrag, and you can see down here, this is the part of Arad. This is 1951. This is Al Hala, and this is the whole island. I measured, we used to walk from here all the way down there. This part is basically something around 800 or 1 kilometer. You can walk it on the city center. One, two routes, that's it. Manama, the old line of Manama and the shore. You can see Bab al-Bahrain down here, just as a reference. This is the old Muharraq causeway, the British embassy down here. This is where the Zaml Tower, Doctor. And look at this and look at this. The whole thing is this part. When I say 20 times, the whole thing here is here. And that's what have been developed through the years, and of course all of the development that you can see all around. Manama is the line which is this much. And this is whole thing have been developed after. This is 1950, and of course 2007. Okay. There is a uniformity up to 1930, let's say prehistorical or historical architectural, where let's say 200 years. Bahrain is well known, even prehistorical, 4,000 years, there are so many kind of architecture. However, the things which we see and make a reference to, as we call it the traditional architecture, is 200, 300 years. It's different. And it's unique, and I believe it is something that have came down on this area as a collection. It is a small place, and when people ask me what you can recognize, we know back again, for example, Mamluki period on Egypt, and we know for example Damascus architecture, or the Turkish period. It is one of likely most of the other cities, very high dense, beautiful urban fabric with a lot of courtyards. Doctor was saying dense. I said we have built now, I think, more dense area that comparatively with this per square meter. And there are so many things to do back again with outdoor, indoor, material, technologies, beliefs, urban fabric, way of living, privacies, materials that have make that. No architect, simply a stud. There is a technology, material that have came in, and people start utilizing it. There is unity. It's like having a common understanding that a window is this, and the size of a room is this, a living room is so, a courtyard is so. And there is I believe there is environmental impact. You feel you are a part of the environment, a part of the climate. It's like somebody is building, so much into the things around him, with his belief, of course. from 30s to 50s. I have so much to say about each of those period. However, I'm just passing fast. Deterioration. New extensions of the cities. The cities start extending. On the 50s, the first thing the government done, start building schools, needs, hospitals, and that was around the old cities. So they were reclaiming and putting back again what the people want, all the facilities around them. So a lot of schools, if you see the schools that have been built on the 60s or the 50s, you will find them on the parameters of Manama and Muharraq. Cars, from that old one, you can see that the cars start punching. I don't want to say punching, but car was also a necessity. There are a lot of services have been provided inside the cities. Infrastructure, electricity, water, roads, emergencies, everything. But that have been punched through that urban fabric and have left a big, huge impact on how that urban been left, a mix, and of course the grid system, and the deterioration. Beautiful period, 70s, end of 60s. Government developed, a lot of governmental building came up. Huge, nice, beautiful developments came from outside. A lot of architects have came from abroad to do a design of a beautiful institutional building. And some of them for well-known, of course, architects. Part of them, for example, the University of Bahrain, Beit al-Tijjar, all days, Hilton, of course, the Ministry of Justice. And then we started the 80s and 90s, blazing high towers, 50-story, and limited way of designing. Sky is the limit, materials. You can see back again the amount of glass and all of that. And it's nice to stand on one of those floors and overlook the whole city. It's a beautiful view. So it's nice to have that much of a glazing maybe. I was always stopping up to 90s, and I said historical, I said traditional, I said modern. The 50s is the modern. And then I said post-modern, the 80s. And then I said ultra, post-modern, the 90s. Till I don't want to say except contemporary development on our country, which goes back again, as you can see down here. Mega project. It's not anymore the government is driving the development. A lot of developer, big teams, different arrangements. It's not anymore the government or the owner and an architect, a setup that comes with hundreds of people to do such a development. There are a lot of keys on that, issues to do with finance, durability, sustainability. And we saw so many. Some of them, of course, have been, Durra, Diyar Muharraq, Amwaj, Bahrain, or the harbor. Now I will tell you a bit on this. So that's what we used to have. And this is where are we. And both for me, by the way, is a nice. Okay, let me tell you, after I analyzed this, every time I have a project, I said, okay, what is beautiful in our architecture? What is about the traditional? So I was starting since I was a student, analyzing and collecting information. And the first thing I came with after I graduated, and I'm sharing again with the doctor and even with a lot of my colleagues and friends on my office, I always say, okay, no, it is, you need to do something with identity and you need to make it locked to today's needs and for our wish of spaces, facilities of today. And it is like that fight between this and between this. And the first works that I have done, and it was through competition, and the participation was through other offices. For example, Al-Ali complex. An Ali complex That day was the doctor asking me why the layout is a bit strange. I said it was a souk. I never meant to have it as modern mall. It's a souk. It's a space that you feel like you are walking on a souk. So it is not an accurate way. With very modern utilization of the material approach. So the approach is in a modern way. And I will show you Bahrain later on a few of those pictures about the mall and a few other projects. So at that time, I started getting inspired, doing what they call it abstract from the traditional, building a new thing. That was in the early 90s. And Victor and guys noticed that period. There was a huge deterioration. I have a lot of record of the traditional houses. I was every 6 months taking picture during the 90s and 80s. Every year you find 10 of houses demolished, rebuilt with completely new. Some of them look not bad, and some of them is very commercial look, and some of them they do the purpose of what have been built for. So I started documenting, and then I find myself, I have another mission. I don't think it's not just only getting inspired, because it's like somebody saying, you are beautiful like the moon, but there is no reference for a moon. Nobody knows what's the moon. You have no reference. So why you are referring to? We are referring to identity and architecture, but we lose it. You know, it's disappearing. So I started on gathering information, collecting information more about traditional, not just only about architecture and drawing an arch or a window, how this is constructed, where it has been built, what is the sizes, what is the proportion, from where the material comes. Traveled all around trying to find from where we get the dentil, how they do the gypsum, how they burn the gypsum in Bahrain and outside Bahrain. So I collected a lot of information. I'm happy to say, I think Gulf House is one of the institutes that have a huge amount of information on traditional architecture. And I kept that line. However, we carried out with our, what we call it, believe that it should be. Our role as an architect is not to copy and not to bring the past and to say, that's it. No, we need to preserve the past. We need to hold and to revive and to reuse. But when we build new things, I wish that you say, I have used, I saw and analyzed something from where we belong and start getting inspired. Those are some, Victor was saying some of these sketches and I you know, I mean, I have so many of them. However, talking about proportion and elements and some of the things, by the way, I was trying to analyze that have been disturbed in our architecture. You will not find them on building. It have been disturbed by renovation or been disturbed by modified. And I start collecting a lot of information on that and draw them and get a feeling of them and get the proportion and use them in some of our projects on a modern way. And even sometime, you know, a different thought on very, I will call it, you know, space design way, you know, to take the whole thing. You need to live with your drawings. As an architect, keep your hand or keep back your laptop. You need to draw. You need to put, and when people, we talk, even with my guys, when we sit on the design and we sit and talk, always I said, do your, what we call it, doodling or bubble diagram and talk and start putting information, feed information, analyze any problem with a drawing. And that makes you really get a better feeling. Maybe you hate it, and maybe you like it more. Maybe you get in love with it more. Those for some of the project, actually, you know, some of them old, you know, that have been executed. This is beautiful table I done for, you know, I think 20 years or more. This have been executed. This is a mosque in Bahrain down here, Kano, and this is partially we started on the master plan, and then we stopped. we done on the renovation. So what I'm going to show you first is the renovation, and I believe on it, and we should hold on to it. And even we like it or not, we should hold it. We should do that and collect information. And I'm happy that we are on Gulf House. We have a good group that are so much familiar with all of those details and have incorporated a lot of information to do that. And those are, for example, this is a Zaid house, and that is the way we saw the house. The old windows have been removed, aluminium have been put in, partial left down here. We find the ceiling, a beautiful ceiling, have been covered with plywood, and all of that was an experiment to deal with that, not just only to look into the design issues, to deal with it and to say, I want to hold it, how I can build it, how I can hold it. And never forget that most of our buildings traditionally is what we call it, belongs to the Adobe architecture. It is there is no reinforcement. There is stone, there is only wood. To make a sense structurally. However, you need still to think of it. Al-Arayad, house in Manama, that was, and this is what we done basically. Ben Faris, this is Al-Korar, and Amarat Ben Matar, which is in Muharraq as well. And we have done a few things to do back again with what we call it, the center of the whole thing. You can see back again, this is Sheikh Isa bin Ali house down along this area, and this is the school. That was basically the hub where the ruling family was living, and all of the ally families live around them, and then the markets and the roads comes around. Those are a few of the proposals a long time back for those areas. That was a dream. Never was a project, by the way. They used to be a dream. We were sitting and drawing, and if you would say, Ahmed, do you have a project? No, we don't have a project, but we dream about that area. That shall be whole. We need to reintroduce it with a different way. I'm proud as well to say, for example, the ruling palace of Bahrain, which is Sakhir Palace, that was a ruin, which was like this, by the way. And we started almost like more than 15, 20 years. Renovating buildings that are 200 years old, keeping them, reuse them, and build a new extension. And today is what we call it the Royal Court, or Diwan al-Malaki. And it is one of the only palaces within the area that have been reused. When I said the Royal Court, it's actually used for receptions, for conferences, for guests, and this is all been done down there. A lot of information have been done on that project. We collected a lot of beautiful. I still remember, when we were working with the labor, to hold such a wall, it was like you touch it and it comes down, and basically you need to hold part, work on outside, remove little bit inside. It was like almost a surgery. A part of what we have done on this exercise, that was in '99. We collected the information, then we brought Bahrainis young, Shabab. And we brought old guys that used to be Astad, our assistant of Astad. And we start building with the traditional material. There are a company called E1, and they are practicing renovation, and as well, of course, those groups, we brought them, we trained them, we put the information, we put them with the old guys, and they are very specialized. And I'm so glad to say, and this initiative, by the way, was from His Majesty and Her Highness Sheikh Sabicha, with a lot of push from my side, as an architect. I think it's not just holding into a building, it's holding into a profession. And having a building and without the knowledge how it can be built or how it can be done, I think this is an issue. This is the Manama. Some of the projects, and when sometime I remember, the story on that, like, talking to the concerned people to renovate, to hold, to do something to Suq al-Manama, and to prepare proposal with no commitment. It's just only about being in love with it. and then pushing the decision makers to do bit by bit. This project goes 2002. We finished it, I don't know, 2009 or 2010. It was living, it was not an easy task to do. However, part of that project, I hope that I can show you. Of course, we were talking about the whole district of Manama, but what we've been working is basically that part. And inshallah, I hope that's going to continue. This is one of the old projects. This is where I said I was trying to convince. After I finished some of the modern building, I faced something interesting that the people were asking me, Ahmed, traditional. I still remember one of the presentation, client, we have a seaside project, so I done. They said to me, do something Roman with columns. I said, all right, done. And I came with this. And I still remember they need to present it to a minister. So the minister was looking at it. I said, what's that? I said, something to do with our architecture. I'm talking about the 90s where people, they don't talk about. They were knocking. I don't want to mention, but basically I've been put in a way and say, why you need to do that? Ahmed, this is at all not elegant. Why we need this? We need something elegant, new, modern, big columns. I said, that can do the job and can have that feeling. So that was one of the early projects that we start talking to and telling the people that traditional architecture can work. That came after, for example, Al-Ali. And on that, we were trying to tell them that our architectural element, our courtyard, our spaces can be something of an attraction for any destination. And still, the hotel is doing well. We're going horizontal, it's not a tower. Now I'll show you a few others. Of course, this is some of the views for the same. Can our architectural, the traditional architecture, be a luxurious? Can be a space that is a 5-star hotel or a palace? That was as well another challenge that we had. And I think we have achieved through, for example, the Sakhir Palace or few other projects. And this is one of the examples. And this is having built. The client was so adamant to do it with the traditional material. We find few criteria that is unbelievable when you build with Yos stone, with dental. Believe me, there is like a magic inside the rooms. The smell of the room is different when you do it out of concrete. It's absolutely different. It have that smell, it have, I don't know, neutrons are moving differently that you feel relaxed. And I find a lot of our clients that have used those traditional buildings to use, to sleep and to relax or to use, they are in love with them and they are keep using them regardless their retail. And what we have done a very, sophisticated, I would call it a project. This project comes with solar energy, with the saving. We saved on this, we got an hour on this one. We got a saving on the regular, not to do any major thing except to build with this material. We saved 30 to 40% of electricity that is normally required with such buildings. We saved on, by doing the energy, solar energy, we have created another 30%. That means we are using power and like 30%. Unbelievable. I go on summer, and this is on Abu Dhabi. Unbelievable. You can walk on the roof because it has been done with just. You can touch the wall. You can switch off the AC and sit for a few hours and it's comfortable. And this is what we have done when I was talking about, preserving construction and construction method. It's not just only about building a nice arch or a window. We've been digging information. We've traveling to Kenya, trying to find from where that dental comes from. What's the size of the pieces? Why we are using them? Why we don't use any other wood? All of those information have been collected. And by the way, dental, for example, when we were talking about the traditional space is a distance. All days they use the dental, so it is 3.5. So that means the rooms are 3.5. It cannot go beyond that sizes, for example. But why dental? Why not other wood? Dental is a mangrove wood, and part long time used to grow as well on some of our areas in Bahrain, in particular on Tubli. It is a mangrove tree that is grown on area where rivers meet the sea, so there is that too salty. It works with our environment. I see pieces of dental on some of the houses that are 150 to 100 years old. Termite may affect them, but they are still in a good condition. It's a beautiful material to be used, and it comes from all around. This is what I said, on our island, that beautiful mix. Our guys, they were traveling, they were sailors, traveling all around the world. They brought material from Africa, they brought material from India and Asia and Iran and Iraq and all around. And they have put in it on completely different thing. When people said, compare it with Gulf architecture, I said, they are different. You can see a fort feeling on Oman, you can see a fort feeling on Saudi Arabia. You can see mud architectural, very simple, on Riyadh. But you will not see that sophisticated part that we have on our place. With this much of mix, after years I went to a few areas like Zanzibar, like few other, and I found, you cannot believe that a lot of details that we have down here is there. Not all, but I know that this pattern, we have it. This door, we have. The concept of having the sticking wood, which is a lot of architecture, wow, sticking wood out of the wall. No, it's a scaffolding. So when they come after 2 years, they need to replaster this. They have a scaffolding which is down there. Beautiful. And that was, I think, one of the things that make the whole story. This is the way we are doing the ceiling and the material, and we have gathered information for all of that, how we build arches. And we draw arches as an architect, and we know that they are structure member originally, and we enjoy them, and they give a sense of entry or. But believe me, when you sit and you do it by your hand, you will be in love with that piece. It is something different. You will have a different feeling for it. You can see how old days they were putting what we call it gaitan, and then they start filling and building back again. It's a completely load bearing. This is, by the way, the foundation, and how we are putting back again the foundation, and of course the ceiling. Architects, we were talking about, architecture is nice when it's form follow function, when it is so much tied with the structure. Those lines, they look decorative. No, they are not decorative. All days they put those, so they make the alignment of all of their grid of the bamboo, the rest, the black one. So first they make, so they can have a perpendicular lines on top of each other and relation geometrical, right? And they emphasize on them. It's by itself, it's a thought on our architectural school, is how you emphasize on not the structure, just only on the structure, is what we call it on the rough line, the sketch line, that is still on. That is inside. And my apology when I say sometime, taste, client and taste. But yes, it is absolutely a luxurious space. This is a project, small project that I was doing lately. I don't know. Look at those elements that are down here. So absolutely. So for others, maybe this is, wow, this is completely modern. That's nothing to do with the traditional. No, this is an element from our traditional architecture. Most of our arches are banded, rested on a form which is basically either rectangle or square, which is, for example, this. We saw on Bin Matar this element that goes as a shade. It can be a nice, beautiful, modern material, but it can be a beautiful, modern use. The courtyard, the feeling of the courtyard, sunken courtyard. If this is a garden, this is a sunken courtyard. So there is a basement and there is a calling for another courtyard. Courtyard is one of the most beautiful elements. Not as a Bahraini, as an architectural element in a lot of country. And we should use it because it is a beautiful space. It gives a lot of privacy. It gives a lot of, I call it the They said private beach, I call it the private sky on my courtyard. That space that I can look and I stand, and this is mine within that small square. How much? Long time back. Big fight. Big fight, this is an era that I would like as well to talk about. 2000, before 2000, mega projects start coming into the island. And the clients is so adamant to put a project with the maximum utilization, profit, maximum build-up area, and to convince those that please add more garden, add more space was so difficult. This area of the whole island is approximately 3.5. Out of that, Bash Mohandes, we have used only 2.5. That means more than 30% being taken out for gardens. And just add to this, of course, all of the circulation and other things. So basically, more than 50% have gone into, and this is what we are saying for a lot of people, especially developer. Give that space, give that outdoor space, give space for the people, make it more. And those are some of the even early sketches. The floating high dense, the floating city down on Amwaj is a high dense. Those are units which are 6 meter wide, and they have like 4 bedrooms. They are all down here. We put in a gates along the side. It works so perfectly. This is an interesting, after a lot of fight with housing ministries and housing with the people who are doing housing, we have done till today, as Galhaf, more than 8,000 units on housing on a different project. More than 8,000. More than 5,000 built. And on those, we were always been, again, a regular module type X or type Y that is used by the government or by the authorities, be it here or around us, by the way. And we were pushing them and saying to them, can we give the people something a bit different? We tried one, which has been done on Diyar Muharraq with the small courtyards. It's like 2 by 3. And I know that light, amount of light that I've brought into the space, make that small 12-meter plot beautifully. So we were talking about Baraha and then a courtyard. And what we have done, we built this model down on Abu Dhabi, and it's in a Raha area. We've done a few hundreds out of them. And on this, the units basically is having a different arrangement of a courtyard and the cluster as an architect, as we said. So never think of unit, think more. The cluster is making that courtyards and giving that privacy. The people down there on Abu Dhabi that used to live on plots 100 meter by 100 meter, a villa with the setbacks that they never used. Some of their sons that have taken those houses, they absolutely, they are using the outdoor, and I'm so happy that means you are absolutely utilizing completely your plot. And it is that space which add value for it. There was some other jobs as well. We are doing a lot of master plan. I'm an architect and urbanist, so for me, those both together, linked together, even when we I design a house, and then I need to look at the neighbor and make sure that the things is working. I will show you some of our jobs that have been done by some of our Gulf House staff. So those are not all Ahmed Bucheery. Those are my colleagues and my friends on our office on Gulf House that have worked on and designed. This is, of course, Zamel Tower. Zamel Tower is by itself was a story. They have 2 plots, this plot and this plot, trying to introduce a gate for the urban area, which leads to Bab al-Bahrain. Was by itself is a mission. Having, of course, the facilities of a car parking and, of course, an offices. Reutilizing the space in a proper way. The architecture from outside is inspired. It's a nice base, basically, materials. I'll talk about material later on, but material can make a hell of a change on your design and what you can do on design. a different approach. That was an early, I think 2000 or 99, and I'm talking about how you can get things from the traditional and put it in a modern tower or new use building. And then this is our Gulf House engineering building. We look at this corner and maybe it is just for me it is something to do with Muqarnas. It is something to do with very Islamic sort of inspiration on very modern way. This is the interior inside down there as well. This is one of our projects called Family Foundation on Abu Dhabi. It is under progress. It's on the design stage, designed by one of our guys. And this is another job for one of our good colleagues. That, as you can see, the material, the utilization of the material can be put in on very modern approach. This is the Presidential Palace of Abu Dhabi. This is one of our biggest projects. We started working in 2005. We won it as a competition. And this is one of the largest projects that have been done on this. And I am proud to say, inspired by traditional architecture. A lot of conceptual that is driven by space use, hierarchical domes and courtyards that have been put in down here, proportion. And that challenge, the one which I said, can you challenge yourself and say, our architectural can be monumental? I was standing once on one of the buildings on open panoramic lift, and there was somebody with his friend. He said, oh, Abu Dhabi guys, they are building they are building Taj Mahal down here. And it was a good statement, because the statement is not about Taj Mahal, it's saying, can our architectural be an iconical? Can be our architectural monumental? Yes, we can. We can do that, and we can treat it in a different way. Spaces on that is magnificent and huge. This courtyard, that I call it a courtyard, is 60 by 60 meters. We have records on this, on spans and materials that have been used down here, with the beautiful, of course, white stone. That was the National Assembly that have been designed again in 2005. An inspiration again from the traditional, with the courtyards, with the water, and with the breaking of the masses. The mosque, sometimes, architecturally, we learn as well from so many things. The mosque orientation, of course, is different than the building, and it's oriented to Qibla, but to bring it into the shape, I don't know if you know, on Tunis, there is a big Jama, and basically with the orientation of the Medina, and it's different for the orientation of, it's a beautiful treatment. This is ministry. The brief that we received, a building, a tower, 30-story, each floor is for and what we have turned into on the land, a cluster of buildings that have all of those functions, with courtyards in between, been done with one of our architects as well. So it should be a tower this big. So we turn it into a small, broken spaces with a courtyard in between, as you can see down here, that can keep back again the whole thing on a feeling of something to do with a reminder from our architectural. That was lately been done, the conference center on Sakhir. And this is a house by the seaside, again with a few courtyard, with a few elements, very nice treatments on a traditional. I'll show you some of those sketches that I still have. I think 91. This is goosey. Those are the first early sketches that been done for the concept of goosey. Let me tell you about goosey. Goosey was so interesting. At that era, to talk about porcelain tile is like talking about magic, like saying, we will do, iPad touch screen to talk to the light. At that time, to talk about certain material is what was a fight. To have a tile 60 by 60 and saying, I want inside it another 10 by 10, another color, it was basically impossible, because they need to cut it and then they're always going to show back again a markup. Then we need to fight, go bring water jet. At that time, water jet is a technology of NASA. So it's not, not for tile. Porcelain tile at that time was like, something like on 30 dinar is like somebody's telling you 300 dinar per square meter. And that day I was just looking at some of the sketches. This one down here, I was thinking to put a light, a continuous, what do you call it, LED? I was thinking of continuous light under the handle. So the glazing, frameless, and a nice light inside. Tube light, there is two ways. Either you do neon or you do it with the fluorescent at that time, those two. And to put neon or fluorescent, you need ventilation, you need. I have designed a few lights that have been put in down here, and still, by the way, it's manufactured by the same people. I saw them still being manufactured because they have designed them specially for this project and then have been reused because we put in it with the ventilation to have an illumination to illuminate. The guy was saying to me, why you need to illuminate this way? Illuminate this way. I said, no, I want to illuminate this way. So I'm talking about 92. So talking about at that era, I think we are lucky today, a lot of information. When you talk about the 80s, to get anything to do with architecture, you need to dig, to travel, and to have a book or a picture from somebody to see what others are doing. Today it's on your hand, use it, it's beautiful. You can see more than me and more than the guys before. But dream and keep dreaming and push and don't give up. That was, at that time, was basically impossible. We couldn't do that. This left, fight. To hold a left from the third, you need to hold any panoramic left from the middle. The support of any panoramic left is from the middle, otherwise have no balance. I went to Schindler and I designed this left with them, with third. And it was the first left with the third connection on the structure. I modified architecturally, they modified the structure to get this left. And I think we done at that time, the biggest, I think, aquariums, size. To get a screen of aquarium 3 meter by 6 meter was miracle. It needs 12 months to cast. To keep it on a table, shake it for 15 months so all the bubbles goes up and you get back again really solid to the density that you want. And we are talking about a courtyard again, and those are the spaces that they are coming in between with a courtyard, with a skylight. At that time, skylight, I don't think that we have a single skylight in Bahrain. No skylight. To talk about skylight, you are bringing a specialist and start analyzing water, heat, and a fight to get this. And still I remember on Al-Ali to say, I want a curved glass. It was like, why you need a curved glass? We're going to be doing it segmental. No, I want a curved glass. And still sometimes when I pass by, I say, I don't know why, but it is a good decision. It's beautiful and it's still down there. A curved glass to do at that time was to have a special table that can pass through oven of more than 3,000 for 24 hours to cast for you a glass. So just think that you are ordering a special plane. From there, it have changed and have gone differently, and a lot of technologies have appeared. And I call it my mashrabiyya, the Bahraini mashrabiyya. and our gate on a different way of thought. This is Al-Ali. This is, I think, one of the early sketches for the layout. Al-Ali's diagonal layout with the main space, with the arches. When people ask me, I said, it was the day I started, that was a modern Bahraini. Maybe for others is not. For me it is, because it is hierarchical, it is more than single massing, it is a spread, it is souk with a courtyard in between. It is those elements that remind you, but on very modern way. Using the material, sometimes I pass now experience-wise, 30 years. Can you believe that this building with the precast is still down there? Quality of the concrete is unbelievable. We are talking about almost 30 years that I cannot achieve on a regular building with a block work, with a plaster. Use durable material. Fight, not to fight to build an expensive building, fight with your client to do a quality work. And I'm sure that they will listen to you. That was one of the early, again, precast buildings that have been done architecturally on this way. And of course, the internal view of those elevations, the courtyard with the skylight. I think when we finished that dome, that was the biggest dome in the world. It was 25 meter, and it was the biggest dome. It's a Canadian company. Everything was like 18. It's not meant to be. We don't want to design the biggest dome. After they finished, they said, they put it in the catalog, we have designed the biggest dome. And it is 25 at that time, at 92. Today there are spans, as I said, you can go hundreds of meters and you can do so many things. The extension of a sieve, again, is that space with the wind tower, but on very modern way. Is the mashrabiyya on very modern way. Is the courtyard in between with the nice elements and the big snah. This is a small mall which is under construction at the moment at Rafah. Again, a different inspiration from traditional architecture. And this is again a project which is under construction on Muharraq by the causeway, Saada. And this is a mosque that we have done for Muharraq, the King Mosque. You can see back again some of those. So, still I think you need to work up with the proportion. There is a relationship when designing mosque, when designing a minaret, what's the height, what's the proportion, what sort of element you should do. The Bahraini Mosque, always the courtyard is there. Always that, we call it east side. لأن العادة المسجد طبعا جبلة, which is west side. So it is that west side and east side with the minaret. Most of our mosque, but that nice, beautiful, I will call it there is no arcade. Usually there is no arcade connecting between here and there. If you connect them with arcade, then it's become any other Arabic mosque, but it's not. It is always separate. And is that can do a monumental? Yes, it can do a monumental. That was, I think, 100-meter height minaret. This is Safiya Kano Mosque. Again, a beautiful inspiration and elements that have been taken, as I said to you, the courtyard, arcades, the skylights. This is the mosque on Rafah, just Sheikh Hamouza. We were talking once with a friend today. You don't need to do a solid arch. It can be that, it can be that beautiful, just that element that you read now, that square on top and this length and that nice arch that can be perforated. Any other material? That's for Haji Hassan Mosque that was being designed here in Sanaa. This done 2000, I think, and 5. And that was a competition. By the way, a lot of those projects are on a competition, have been won either by our good guys or by myself as a designer. Is lately one of my colleagues, Ahmed, have designed, we were talking about, I show him back again that I would like a single element from our architecture that can be reused and can create a mosque. A single element. This element. And out of precast. Can we do that? Still conceptual. By the way, a lot of projects may not materialize, but I believe that we need to think and we need to experiment. The beauty on that, we have achieved hierarchy on the space that is usually there on the mosque. We have put in back again the element on a different way. We have, of course, all of the kind of proportion that goes usually with the mosque. There's another one. Screening pattern is a beautiful thing. That was a complex, it's a university. And again, it's based on a courtyard feeling, but the elements are that is basically a fort. And on a modern way, or the introduction of a new elements, for example, courtyard, but auditoriums. This is again another one of our guys' work. It's a restaurant. Very, the client, he have an existing building, which is a dome, big, huge dome, and have requested an extension of a restaurant for it. So he thought that we're going to be bringing a traditional Bodgir house and bring it down there. This is what I'm saying. You need to bring thing and link it, let it belong. And what we have done, that big dome, which is I think 100 meter wide, it's a sphere like the one which is on the one on Jafar. It is basically a geodesic dome. It's a huge one. So what we have done, we took back again part of that structure and we created back again, and a different thing is trying to link it through the landscape, through the water back to the building. And that building is basically on the other side of this. So basically it's going down. So it's like somebody have left the ground and create a garden on top. It's a garden on top, and that have been left, and that goes back again to the big dome down here. And this is the Ministry of Transport. That was a competition. And this is, I don't know how many people of you knows الشيوعي, a boat that is created usually with the reed, which is the transport. So the idea is transport, looking into a boat and then getting inspired by that. And that's basically the whole skin of the building that goes up, which is Ministry of Transport. I think I'm done. There are so many projects, unfortunately. I would like to advise you a few things at the end. I think our place and architecture are so much together. To practice architecture, I always say, if there are some students down here, I always say it's going to be same. We have submission, and that's going to be that next Sunday, and we need to run, and it's going to be fast, and you need to be quick, and you should be efficient, and you need to present it nice. Think that will never stop. That's going to be your life for the rest of your life. Till today, we have deadlines that if you go, last night there was, not last night, this morning people have left the office because they have a deadline to submit. Some of them is down here, so they are laughing. So yes, it is, will never stop. Our profession is so beautiful. It can motivate you. It is to do back again with things on your heart. It can do with things on your work. It's a mix. It is art, technology, social, everything. It's all together, mixed together to do a job. And if you are in love with, then you can't just stop it. And aim for the better. I believe through what we've done as Gulf House, as an Ahmed, holding the people from demolishing traditional buildings and renovating. That was one of our mission as an officer, as a person. 2, saying to the people that our traditional architectural, our local architectural can be a source of an inspiration for new buildings. There is plenty of areas to design. There is the globalization. I'm not anticipating everything on this country to be Bahraini or modern Bahraini. But I said, look where you design and design for that place. See what for whom you are doing and do that for him and do it right. Globalization opened the whole world. You know, I mean, we are involved in a project all around Morocco, on England, and Paris, all around. And we are so proud that we have work with a lot of passion to deliver something that is respecting. I will tell you again as well with the traditional. So one of the sheikhs of Abu Dhabi, he called me. I done for him something in Abu Dhabi, and he saw those sketches and he said to me, "I want to do a house on Black Nest. It's an area outside London, next to Heathrow." I went down there. 3 villas, done, sir. He designed 3 villas. He said, "I want them traditional." I said, "What?" He said, "I want 1 tower." I said, "What?" He said, "You gonna say no?" I said, "Yes, I will say no. I will not design for you any traditional house on London. I will not do it. You want to do by yourself. Do where it belongs. When you design something for the people where it belongs. Do it with your heart. Do it for yourself and live on it. That's the best design. That you're going to give the client the best design. If you live on it and walk through, not the client, not his wish. Fight for your ideas. Fight for having the new. You will be facing a lot of rejection. Fight for the new. If nobody fight for the latest, like, you know, from using those small spotlight that they are this size. I still remember the first Barrett light I used. It was 1 meter by half a meter. Barrett with a concrete to have an uplighter like those. Look at those. They are this deep, this big. 1 meter deep. Concrete reinforcement to hold that light inside so it will not be intact with water. Think and say, don't stop, and push your client, and they will accept. Give quality on your work. We designer get responsible for the quality and the environment around us. After 50 years, people gonna not point a finger, but you know, they will say, those guys, they were lazy. They couldn't manage to give us something beautiful to look at. Like we look at what happened on the 50s or on the 30s and we say, wow, that's nice. So I hope that you share with me. We make mistakes, never stop. Please criticize your work after you finish. Put your work, the first guy who should criticize to make sure that you do good is you. After you finish the job, belt, and you see it, go down there and say, we said in Bahrain, say, I forgot to do this. Oops, I should done this. But you know, I will do it. Keep it in your heart. I will do it the next one. That's what will keep you running for the next job. Today, this Gulf House, what I'm talking about, that I am part of, is 300 people. A lot of architects and designers and engineers that have added value for our environment. I believe it's home. And we spend down there a lot of hours. And this is architecture. And it is a beautiful time. You go home and you feel that you are working, dreaming. So please dream. And don't look at it as a work. And it's going to take your heart if you do beautiful things. And you're going to get hurt when a client hurt you. Don't. Push and say, next one. If I couldn't manage this one, next one. And next one should be better than the last one. That's what keeps us on. Our place and our environment and the world deserve more. احنا نقول احنا البني آدم خلق رب العالمين ليعمر الأرض. خليفة في الأرض. ليعمرها. ففي القرآن ذكر أن how important that the human being down here on earth to develop this whole earth. So it depends on all of us. Work, get exposed to others, know others, work with all, with their thinking, with their different mentality, different culture, and try to bring things differently. We work, and Ahmed, I work a certain stage, and I'm not stopping, I will carry on. And I'm sure that there will be people that they're gonna run faster than me. And that's gonna be somebody down here because he believes that this job deserves to give. and the place where he live and the people deserve to be given something nice. Not for you, never think of you, think of the people where you live. I'm happy, sorry to take that much of time. Happy to have you down here. I wish that inshallah next time can be a better presentation. It was a rush, but you know, it is some of the things that I would like to share. Maybe I didn't go into detail, but for architects, if there are architects around us down here, I'm sure that you read in between the lines. And I hope that can have, maybe can justify even mistakes that happen on those projects or in the place because of what we have done. That inshallah, I hope with you, we're going to find a better place for all of us. Shukran jazeelan.